And if we've gone the wrong way down the path, okay, sure, yeah, we need to track back now. But the whole reason we track back is so that we can get going forward again.
All right, well, good morning and welcome to Chinook Podcast. We're back again today, and we have Joffre Swait in the studio with us. He traveled all the way up to Grand Prairie, and welcome, Joffre.
Thank you. Yeah, it's turning into a once-a-year habit.
Yeah, that's great.
That's a good habit to be in. Yeah.
We need more people to travel through town because Grand Prairie is kind of nobody really travels through.
On
Grand
the way
Prairie.
to somewhere, right?
It's on the way to Alaska.
It's on the way to Alaska if you're on the east side of the Rockies.
Right.
So we have had people show up in church on Sunday who are traveling back and forth to the CRECs in Alaska.
Really? Okay,
Yes.
that's cool.
Yeah, so I think we've had the pastor up there, Jack Phelps, his son has traveled through.
Right.
A couple of people like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I brought a couple of my kids with me this time.
Oh, good.
And many great friends at this church, and my family has met several Grand Prairians down in Idaho, and they've visited. But as far as my kids are concerned, the important thing was that they were visiting Jamie Souls' church.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jamie Souls is a rock star down in the States.
Mm-hmm. In some states.
In some districts.
In some pieces of some states.
Yeah. So we're here today. We're here this weekend. It's been wonderful.
Awesome.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And Jamie's here today as well.
Yes, I've risen from the slumber of night, and I'm wiping the remainder of it out of my eyes, and off we go. Let's have this interview. I think this will be really good.
Jamie's not had enough sleep this week.
We'll start with some book reviews, I think. I'm going to review a book that I'm not sure if I've reviewed this one. I think one of you guys probably did. I'm just re-listening to the C.S. Lewis space trilogy. So I'm in Out of the Silent Planet, that book, and I remember that book as being the guy gets kidnapped. The main guy he gets by subterfuge. He finds himself on a spaceship, and there's all kinds of fantastic stuff going on in this book. Lewis is a great writer, and so I would commend to you that entire trilogy. But it starts with Out of the Silent Planet.
Which would you say is the best book of that trilogy? I've had different people argue for different books.
Yeah, I'm reluctant to answer because I'm still not. It's not deep in my bones yet. The trilogy. I've listened through it once, and I'm listening through it again a few years later now.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'd trust my opinion.
I have a strong opinion on that, but I'm not going to publicize it because I think your instinct, Jamie, is a very good one. This serves as a personality test, and people pass judgment. and not even like it's not even like which choice is best or worst, but instead like, oh, you're that kind of person. So you're actually being very wise right now, Jamie.
I just posted something on my Substack in one of the Psalms where I said that it's really, really difficult to extract from me a favorite.
Yeah.
Everybody asks, what's your favorite this? What's your favorite that?
Right.
I don't know.
People ask me what my favorite book of the Bible is.
Oh, yes.
I usually say whatever I'm preaching through at the current time.
It's always changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to recommend, I'm just going to talk a little bit about Louis L'Amour. I know we've talked about Louis L'Amour before. I specifically read Dutchman's Flat. I've not read
it said Dutchman in it.
Because it said Dutchman in it. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, here's a point of
connection.
That's right. Yeah. Anyway, I've not read a lot of Louis L'Amour, and so I was like, you know what, I'm going to pick up Louis L'Amour when I was camping this last week, and There was a good quote at the very beginning of that chapter. No rider of the desert must see a man to know him, for it is enough to follow his trail. And these things are the ways of a man made plain, his kindness or cruelty, his ignorance or cunning, his strength and his weakness. There are indications that cannot escape a man who has followed trails. And in the 2 hours since they had ridden out of freedom, the 6 had already learned much of the man they followed, and they would learn more. So anyway, I just thought that was kind of a fun concept. Mm-hmm. It can be transferred and applied into many different areas of life.
Yes.
You can kind of, even if you've never met a man, it's kind of interesting to analyze men based on how they write or do social media or things like that, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of learn a lot about a man by his trail.
Mm-hmm. I remember reading a great many Louis L'Amour books when I was a teenager. There was lots and lots of them around the house. I had siblings who loved them. My mom loved them. But there's something deeply Christian about his worldview, about how he approaches things. Whenever his raw, tough cowboy character gets right down to brass tacks, he's talking about the good book. That's almost always the case.
Well, this one in particular,
the good book says.
This one in particular, they're trailing a man who they think did a crime, and it's really interesting how Louis L'Amour takes a Western and kind of weaves in themes of justice and the whole principle of 2 or 3 witnesses, and it's kind of fun.
Well, yeah.
So,
it's I love the idea of the trail being revealing and showing you what kind of man you're dealing with, and people resist that notion, right? They don't want you to reckon with their history. They want to be free and clear of these things when they're interacting with you. But the way they came into their conversation is relevant.
Yes.
Right? And you can repent.
Yeah.
Like that's fine. But there is a trail of destruction or whatever.
Well, and they don't want
you.
you to. They don't want you to judge, but the Bible does say, "Judge with righteous judgment."
Right.
It was kind of funny. I remember being at New St. Andrews College, and Mr. Apple, I think it was Mr. Apple, he made a comment along the lines of, he basically judges a student by the way that they walk up to the front to sign the book, even though he's never met them or talked to them. He kind of starts forming a judgment of each student based on the way they walk.
Sure.
And I'm like, at the time, it made me kind of mad. And then as time went, the time went on, I was like, you know what? That's actually wise.
Yeah. Well, as an athletic coach, I've become very used to that. In fact, for years, my wife was always, at first she found it creepy, and then she started to find it funny. But I've got opinions about everybody's bodies. It's like that dude's got good thighs, I say. And Kimberly has learned to think that's not weird.
Okay, that's good.
So yeah, I'm making instant judgments.
All right, what's your book recommendation?
So I just got done reading a collection of colloquies. The book is called 10 Colloquies by Erasmus. So Reformation, some people might say pre-Reformation, but Reformation era. And he wrote one of my favorite things ever, which is this piece called Julius Excluded, which is like a little mini play about a pope getting to heaven and St. Peter turning him away, which is absolutely hilarious. And so he's just a funny guy. Erasmus is so funny. I actually sneakily, although Luther was right in his debate with Erasmus, I like Erasmus way better.
You're kind of pulling for that.
Yeah, and he is a saint. He's clearly a Christian and a lover of God and a lover of Scripture. So yeah, Luther happened to be right, but I would way rather hang out with Erasmus, and not because I'm some fancy hoity-toity person, because that might be the first interpretation someone would put to that.
Right.
Because if you read Erasmus, you can
Following
tell,
your
oh, this guy
trail.
enjoys a party. His theology of sex and marriage is really robust. He was a very cool dude. Anyway, so I think we could definitely rehabilitate him a little in Protestant circles. And these colloquies, these basically they're dialogues. They're usually very humorous, very revealing of a lot of it. Like the first one in the collection that I've been reading. And I bought it at a used bookstore, so I don't have it in front of me, so I'm not even sure what collection it was. But this one was his most famous colloquy is probably this one. It's called Shipwreck, and it's two Dutch men talking about. One is returned from a shipwreck where he was one of only very few survivors. And he describes the whole scene of the ship eventually going down in the middle of the storm and how different people are praying or responding to this crisis. And, one priest does this, another priest does that, the captain does this, everyone gets on the lifeboat, everyone who gets on the lifeboat dies. Why is that? But it's full of all these, it's before Luther and the 95 Theses. But it's going after Mariolatry and praying with the Rosary.
It's going after all the right
things. Oh
yeah,
man, it's so good, so good. So that's my recommendation.
Okay.
I'd also like to plug my own stuff though.
Oh yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Because so Roman Roads Media, who are a great classical curriculum company, classical education curriculum company. In fact, it's through them, through teaching for them, that I came across Julius Excluded, that hilarious, this Pope doesn't get into heaven play. But yeah, so they've published a curriculum of poetics, of rhetoric, called Word Hoard that I've done. So there's a workbook, textbook thing, and then there's an anthology. And I think anyone in the audience would benefit from picking up the anthology. The rubric of the anthology and the subtitle as well is poems every Christian should know. So it's very subjective. It's my opinion,
Right.
but these would be the poems that at least the first volume. I'd love for there to be a second volume, but yeah, these would be the poems. Hey, every Christian should read these at least once.
Okay. Word hoard.
Right.
Word hoard.
Yeah. The treasury, like a thesaurus, by the way. That word means treasure.
So that's basically everything you've done.
What do you mean?
Like all the poems you've written.
No, not me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
You
although
your own anthology.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
However, I really like how you're thinking.
Yeah.
I would like if the entire audience considered my poems every Christian should read. I would love that.
Yeah.
No, this is Chaucer and Spencer and Eliot and Hopkins and all that.
Your own poetry has been published in a book called Made in the Image.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
And a few others, but yeah, that's right. Okay. But yeah, this Word Hoard is the title of one of my more popular poems.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's just a concept that I love, that you have this treasure box of words that you bust out in order to impress people or make war or whatever it is you're doing. The Old English, the Anglo-Saxons would use this term word hoard frequently in their poetry, but it's used most famously when Beowulf is coming to Hrothgar's kingdom and he lands, and the guardian of the strand, like the coast guard, meets them, and the coast guardsman, the man who's guarding this kingdom, he busts out his word hoard, opens it up, speaks like a lord, and is clearly an awesome dude, and everyone can recognize this guy's a pretty awesome dude because his words are good.
Yeah.
So that idea is one that I've really locked onto over the years. So it's the name of this rhetoric curriculum. I'd actually like people to consider it a rhetoric curriculum above all else. It's for like senior year of high school or maybe early college. And it's, so what Roman Roads has done is they've made it the capstone of their logic and rhetoric arc. So they're calling the whole arc Wordcraft.
Okay.
And so now Word Hoard is the capstone of that.
So for all of our homeschooling listeners, if you got high schoolers, they should be reading Joffre's new book that he put together, Word Hoard.
Yes. Thank you.
And they should also be reading Made in the Image, reading Joffre's own poetry.
Which, according to some, is poetry every Christian should know.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, every Christian should be reading new poets who are putting out new work, because I think we should be engaging with new poetry and encouraging people to get fresh modern poetry out.
Yeah, well, and poetics is, I was actually talking to some folks last night and making the suggestion that poetry would save civilization. The poetic outlook and poetics is the primary way Christians can, through the Logos, know God and address the transcendent. So this is not necessarily that poetry, that a sonnet does that, but poetics and a poetic outlook, that is what they do. That's in our system, isn't it? Cool. In our sound system, yeah.
Yes, it is. I might have to turn my phone off.
Maybe switch off Bluetooth? Is Bluetooth on?
I'll turn Bluetooth off. Yeah. There we go. People, that was my brother just trying to call me.
Not now. Not now.
There we go. Bluetooth is off.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
Things just went. There's not a window in this room, but all our thoughts just went out whatever window there might have been.
We're all scrambling after them.
I'm sure if we have any ideas, we can always return to them.
Yeah.
I know I was mid-flow, but that's all I remember.
Yes, you were on this poetic sort of flow.
Right. Yeah. So what I was emphasizing the importance of poetics,
right,
and a poetic outlook. So part of that would be actually encouraging and engaging with new Christian poets.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There is a thing that we need to be able to do, and in the CREC churches of which we are a part, this shows up in the music. I remember when they built Cantus 2002, and what an enormous leap that was for so many people. A lot of people found, this music is hard, but boy, does it ever reward study and learning how.
Right.
And we've learned a bunch of that. We have to be careful not to be historically snobbish over things, right?
Right.
Yes. We need to learn what's going on, or what has gone on in our history, not because history is the big deal, the future's the big deal.
Right.
Because we're going there, and we need footing on which we can stand.
Well, and so much, and so much of just recent Protestant tradition, as the evangelical church has exploded around the world, and in the United States and Canada, the church is maturing and finding itself again to the point where it's building institutions and changing how it does things. And, so classical education is an example of that. We honor antiquity and our traditions so much, and we ought to. Mm-hmm. The Reformed ought to look to the Reformation, for example,
right,
but they shouldn't be closed down by it.
Yes.
Right? In fact, it's against the spirit of the Reformation.
Yes.
We are always reforming.
Yeah, the ED on the end of reform is can be a real
yes.
killer.
Yes, that's right. That's a great way of putting
Reformed.
Yeah.
Past tense. We've got it all.
Right. Oh, exactly. And we love and honor the old things, truly. At the same time, we must recognize that as Christians, the future is better than the past. Mm-hmm. That's what we're looking forward to. We are looking forward to the day of the Lord, the day of judgment, the day of vindication, the day of salvation. We are looking forward to paradise, for all things being made right. Mm-hmm. We're looking to the future. That means that the saints need to be urging each other on to awesomeness now.
Yes. That is exactly what that means. We need to be pursuing building things for the sake of the kingdom and glory of God, and trying to trying to build not just on our own personality or whatever, but building on that which has gone before.
Right.
That's the way to build so that it will last.
And this has big ramifications for whether you hold to Christian education, how you do Christian education, is this idea that we draw from the past, but we also look to the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think that a lot of people would have a knee-jerk reaction that the way we're talking. We may say that we love the old things, but we don't, right? Because there's almost like this. You have to pay homage and talk the right way. I have dedicated my life to the old things, and I'm surrounded by people who have done that. Mm-hmm. But praise be to God, those people are not trying to walk backwards. They're marching forward.
Yes.
There's you can love studying Augustine, you can love studying Anselm, you can love looking back to the Reformation and seeing that your identity, your tradition comes out of that. But you can give your whole life to studying these things and move forward.
Yeah, I think there's been such a rejection of the past, rejection of history with all the revolutions of the last 200 years.
Yes.
That I think as we're rediscovering the past in 2026, that sometimes people overreact and they just kind of get stuck in the past. But yeah, we want to be a people who know the past, who love the past, who build on the past.
Right.
We're actually building.
And if we've gone the wrong way down the path, okay, sure, yeah, we need to track back now. But the whole reason we track back is so that we can get going forward again
in a better way.
Exactly
yes.
right. Yeah. And it's actually really important, I think, to emphasize that Christians are creatures of new life, and as much as we may hate the word progress for good reason, salvation progresses, history progresses. It is a very pagan idea to think that older is better.
Ancestor worship.
Yeah, really. Yeah. And and the Greeks had this idea that matter is bad, right? It's droplets down from the divine that wish they could get back up. And so when things were a monad, things were great, but now things fall apart, right? Men were better than women because men came first. Right, in the Greek mindset. In fact, we let those things infect us. Yeah, there are Christians who read
who pair up that sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
They Adam was created first. No, don't fall into Greek paganism. If anything, the glory of the glory. If anything, the default for Christians is the future is better.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, the first shall be last. It's there.
Yeah.
Or the last shall be first, rather.
Well, maybe we can bury back into this idea again. But I wanted to first ask you about the work of theological education that you're doing in Brazil. So, what are kind of the projects you're working on? What's happening down in Brazil? Are you taking back Brazil for Christ?
In one fell swoop. Yeah, yes. But generationally and as part of many millions. Yeah. Praise be to God. The gospel is continuing to be proclaimed and grow in Brazil. My pastor, Ben Zorns, I'm at a church called Living Stone in Moscow, Idaho. He recently got back from a church plant we'll be taking on in southern Brazil. It sort of that came into being through our ministry, and it was actually really cool. So he went down there by himself with his family, but without me, and came back telling me how much more he understands now the necessity of the work that we're doing, in great part because he's widely traveled. He's traveled through Southern Africa, through Europe. He had never been somewhere where no one spoke English. Where it was clear that there was, everything is done in Portuguese. Yeah. Brazil's a huge country, like Canada, like the United States. When you are you have that much land mass, you're a world unto yourself.
Is Brazil bigger or smaller than the States in land mass?
Brazil is
bigger than the States and it's smaller than Canada.
Yeah. Well, Alaska changes that, but yes.
I get that's true.
Yeah.
Right. Bigger than the continental States.
Exactly right. Yeah. Which is, and there's no, people can know that the Mercator maps are warped,
right,
and that Greenland is way smaller,
way
for example,
than it looks.
You can know that in your head, but it still like warps how you think about things.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So people have no real concept that Brazil is bigger than the continental U.S. And so it's a monolith like Canada or the United States, and a lot of people in Africa or Europe don't understand. There's no, like, we're a world unto ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. And so so Ben was down in Brazil and he sort of began to see that, and so that requires a special sort of ministry, right? Yeah. You can do something in Spanish, you can reach almost all of Latin America. You do something in English, people in Australia are reached at the same time as people in England and the United States are, et cetera. Right. Brazil really is sort of a world unto itself, and it's becoming such a titan on the global scene. It's already the second biggest missionary sending country.
Yeah.
But the church also needs to.
They should send some missionaries to Canada.
Yeah,
they probably do.
They do. They absolutely do. It's actually kind of funny because funny, haha. No, it's funny, tragic. But so Brazilians send missionaries all over the world, but to Europe and North America, absolutely. Except that those are the most fragile missionary sendings because their economy is fragile. So anytime the Brazilian economy takes a downturn, or when the U.S. dollar raises, then all of a sudden missionaries start coming back. Right, support wasn't, it doesn't quite cut it. So therefore, the missionary sending is vulnerable to is more vulnerable to economic influence. But at the same time, I have Brazilian missionary friends in the country of Georgia and in Africa and Europe. I'm very proud of that. So Brazil is this rising titan, and the church is maturing, but still immature. But it's maturing to the point now where homeschooling is a big thing. Politics is changing. Society is changing under the influence of the evangelical church, which I think I may have talked a little bit on this podcast. May have talked about that a little before, even in Latin America. Brazil is the leader of that. But I think that actually around the globe, we are going to see nations begin to be transformed and even the politics change as nations hit 30% evangelical, which Brazil has hit, but Brazil's huge. Yeah. So, it's, you can think of some other countries that are a little smaller and where that you feel that influence more immediately.
An evangelical nation looks different than a Roman Catholic nation.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
And the transfer was from Roman Catholic there. Because Brazil was predominantly Roman Catholic until the Pentecostal missions became really, really effective.
Right. Yeah, and that Pentecostal church is now, they look more and more to the Reformed. It's, as I said, the church is maturing more and more. But that Roman Catholic legacy is a heavy one. Yeah. It gets bound up in a lot of the statism that haunts Latin America. And it even, I think one of the sadder ways in which we see that is one of the things we really undervalue as English speakers is the Reformation legacy. That we sing hymns that were written 500 years ago that are our hymns. They're Protestant. Mm-hmm. That doesn't exist in a lot of languages.
Oh yeah,
right. And it's not something you really think about, right. But like it's not. This is a cool hymn, but we translated it from English, from German, from French, from whatever. When we translate something from French or German, it's still part of us.
Yes.
Like remember, we came from the Reformation, so Luther did this thing. Yeah. The Swiss, the French did this thing. It's part of our story. From out of Catholic civilization, they don't have any of that. So they believe these things. It's like, oh, great, let's use the Westminster, let's use the Heidelberg, three forms of unity, et cetera, et cetera. We're Reformed, and it's awesome. We're going to sing Psalms. but none of it's ours. And that actually, it is a bit of a, I don't want to be over dramatic and call it a wound, but it's something that has to be
That's something that takes
overcome.
generations to fix.
Yes, right. And that's part of what we're working on.
Yeah. It really takes a generation.
Yeah. Yeah, at least, yes.
You know, God gets a hold of you and your friends.
Yeah.
And you go out and you start applying the Word of God to everything that you've in your reach.
So let me tell you, sorry.
And you're raising kids who are watching you.
Right.
Well, the kids that you're raising will have a way better footing. They'll have a reformed footing.
Right.
That you didn't have.
Exactly right.
Right.
And it's cultural, right?
Yeah.
It's not about theological assent. It's about a theologically informed life,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
so I'll tell you about my next trip because I think it'll be illuminating in describing what we're trying to do. So, I've been surprised at, I did not found Missao Guanabara to be like a church planting ministry. That sort of happened a little bit.
Right.
I am reevaluating some of what we do because it is becoming a lot more about relationships than it is about media than I expected. And that's something I'm happy to lean into. This next trip I'm taking, I'm straight from here basically as I'm driving back down to the States and then hopping on a plane and going to a city in the northeast of Brazil that I haven't been to before, but I actually know a bunch of the guys there for a couple of reasons. One is several men at this church teach for Logos Online, which is a classical online school that I have some association with. And I kind of, I was the one who kind of brought them into the in English classical education world, and now they've been prospering for years doing that. But I knew about them mostly because this church in a mid-sized city in the northeast of Brazil, their clips get shared by Reformed people all over Brazil. The clips from their worship, psalms and hymns, the way they sing. And the friends I have in this church, one's a poet, one is a biologist who's also a violinist and has a music school. I mean, they're
accomplished guys.
Yes, and their pastor is awesome. I'm just going to this church to learn. That's it. I'm going in all humility to see what they're doing. And they're in another denomination. There's no CREC angle to this. I just I just want to be around these guys. And see how they do everything they do, music, education. And there's still a lot of it is just in nascent form, but it's more advanced than this culture building, right? We're going to transform the church around us, the city around us through culture. These guys are a sort of a point of reference. So I'm just going there to see what they do so I can learn how I could minister more effectively. Right. I'm really looking forward to it. And so much of it is through music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So northeast Brazil is at least a couple thousand miles from where your other stuff is
That's
going
right.
on.
That is absolutely true.
It'd be like us going to the far side of Quebec.
Yes. I had actually never been to the northeast of Brazil until last year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. So most of my work is in the south. I'm from the southeast. So I've even been to the Amazon, which is like an American saying he's been to Alaska. It's actually not that common.
Yeah.
I've even been to the Amazon. I had never been to the Northeast until last year, and I haven't made it to this city yet. So this will be the first time visiting this city. But yeah, it's exciting, and as you say, it's the other side of a vast country.
Yeah.
So Chiego McHurd, is he central or north?
He's down south, actually.
Oh, he's actually south. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So he's relatively near the other CREC.
That's right. Yeah, 8 or 10 hour drive,
Okay.
which Canadians and Americans can understand.
Yeah,
isn't that far. An Englishman might be scandalized, but yeah, 8 or 10 hours isn't that far.
I'm all excited about having presbytery in Calgary because it's only 7 hours
Right,
away.
exactly.
Only.
So close. Right. Yeah. So there are 3 states, and the Brazilian states are They're probably halfway between the size of an American state and a Canadian province. So they're relatively big. And so there are 3 states in the southern region. So Evandro's church is in the southernmost, kind of near Uruguay. And then Thiago's church is in the north of the middle state. And now there's a new plant so all 3 southern states are going to have a CREC church.
Okay.
And then where did the Canadian Reform guys do their ministry from?
Mostly in the northeast.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So that's northeast then.
Right. And so when I went to Recife in the northeast last year, I was connecting with a lot of so Presbyterian, but then also Canadian Reformed
Okay.
work that had been done over the years there.
Interesting. Does some of the work that you're going to this place in Northeast,
Right.
Did they get their ideas from the Canadian Reform guys who were there?
Not with, I don't think so. Not with this particular church.
All right.
But the northeast of Brazil has an interesting history, even just with Protestantism. But so the Dutch Brazil was a thing. And so in the 1600s, the Dutch took control of much of northeast Brazil, converted many of the indigenous peoples, and then tragically, and this is a story worth reading into, but tragically abandoned them. They were sort of fighting a losing war, but they chose for economic reasons to back out, which meant that these indigenous nations that had been warring with each other, and the Portuguese and the Dutch over the true faith, were left behind. So over a
Left to
generation,
their own devices.
yes,
Yeah.
really tragically. Like you reading some of the documents, and like them sending representatives to Holland to beg for help. It's really tragic. But anyway, sorry. So the legacy of literacy in that part of the country, like where the Dutch were, was traceable for centuries. Like as higher literacy, it was really amazing. But then it disappears. Like it's completely, except for that little like, oh, people here can read better. That's weird. But like just gone. And then the Americans show up right around their Civil War.
Okay.
And start planting Presbyterian churches. And they actually kind of experienced that same there was a division. So there are northern Presbyterians and southern Presbyterians, but mostly they're in the northeast of Brazil. There are cities, after the Confederacy lost, there are cities in the southeast of Brazil, because the Brazilian Empire was the last great state to abolish slavery. So there are Presbyterians and Presbyterian legacies in the southeast of Brazil. One of the great pop stars of the baby boomer era was a woman named Rita Lee, who was related to Robert E. Lee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, really wild. But in the northeast of Brazil, it was sort of
funny.
independent of that. So Presbyterianism in the northeast of Brazil is very established, old, but for years, in some ways, just non-influential until this revival that was sparked in the 60s and 70s, which calling it charismatic, as you did earlier, is accurate. It actually started with Presbyterians and is connected to building the capital out of nowhere in Brasilia.
In Brasilia. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, so you can find 19th century Presbyterian congregations in the northeast of Brazil, especially in the city of Recife. And they've had to remind Presbyterian missionaries every once in a while of this. It's just, we're called that we have been around longer than you've been a denomination. Thanks for dropping by. And separately from that, the Dutch, so the Canadian Reformed missionaries have been at work for, I'd say, 40, 50 years. And there's a denomination down there that they founded that's actually become more of a Westminster type of denomination.
Okay.
Just because of how the Brazilian pastors have ended up being educated, but they are a legacy of that Dutch, those Canadian Dutch efforts.
So no matter what happens down in Brazil, it leans more Westminster confessions than three forms of unity.
Yeah. I don't think necessarily on purpose, but that is just, there's just a lot of there's just momentum that direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's actually been the Canadian missionaries I've been able to speak to, including one who now lives in Edmonton. They extremely gracious, hardworking, and I think they should be proud of their legacy in Brazil. It is possible though that there will be no formal record of it, like no
Right.
nothing Canadian or Dutch or anything in any names left after a generation or two. I'm sure they're fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this discussion started with just kind of describing what the scene in Brazil is, and the church really is like the country itself is standing up after for the gospel. After Ben, my pastor, visited and he came back and he said, I understand much more deeply now the necessity of your work. I sort of reminded him of how right after the ministry was founded, I'd spoken at a missions conference in my town and kind of presented the United States and Brazil as two great titans proclaiming the gospel, but potentially two great titans for saving the West. Right? I think a lot of Anglo speakers forget that half of the West is Latin speaking. Mm-hmm. So I have some hope for that that Brazil and the United States and the Americas can be the ones to save the West.
Yeah. I'm going to get back to that point in a moment because I have some thoughts on it. But first, so like a lot of the work that you do down in Brazil then is like you run classes,
right? Exactly.
Conversations, and a lot of that's done via like the online platforms.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So you would describe when you were here before. I think you described it as a media ministry.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
Brazil.
That's the word.
Yeah, and it is transitioning a little more from like video courses and books, and we're doing that sort of thing to a little more what Nathan's describing, where I do a lot of stuff on Zoom.
Yeah.
So our online community is based around WhatsApp, which anyone with Latin friends will smirk about. Like we do everything on WhatsApp. So we have these WhatsApp communities, and then from there we build out certain things. Like I just last month I finished a course on classical education. That's led to some speaking engagements next year. I was doing another class that was just theological English, actually. So for seminary students who are studying online and their English could be improved. So whatever it is, it's just usually the stuff based on building up relationships, and because my ultimate goal with these men I'm discipling is to help them conceive of how to build up the gospel generationally, right? Yeah. So they're very accustomed to the gospel blast sort of thing.
And when this works, churches get planted.
That's right. Yes, right, exactly. So that has sort of happened a couple of times where it's like it's not a church planting ministry, but I guess since we're talking, you may as well plant a church. But yeah, and the CREC in particular, our denomination is one that globally people are reaching out to the CREC because they saw how it stood up during the global crisis of COVID. Yeah. They see that the CREC is among those responding to like this next step that the evangelical church wants to take, right? Where evangelicals have for decades been shallow, but that's, I think by God's grace, beginning to change, and people want to do things like build schools or get into politics. Mm-hmm. And how many Christians are talking about how to do that in a way that is profoundly Christian and gospel-centered, not politics with a veneer of the gospel or education with a veneer of the gospel, but it's all worldly. No, like we are gospel-centered, scripture-centered, and saying these things, like these are the next steps, let's build these things. We're not the only ones saying it, but we are among those who are, and the evangelical church around the world is hungry for these things. I mean, 15 years ago, the prosperity gospel in Latin America and even worse in Africa was rampant. It's still an issue, especially in Africa. But you can see that just in 15 years how much the church has begun to mature. Like Christians themselves are seeing, oh, like I have kids. That means something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think so. My connection to Joffre's ministry is Joffre invited me onto a Zoom call where we were talking about sacraments and sacramental theology. So from what I've seen is, well, this whole touch point with COVID lockdowns is not just political. I think it's also liturgical. When you have a robust liturgy and a robust sense of what the church is, that's gonna make the church have a backbone during lockdowns. And I think Brazil is kind of getting pulled into that whole like historic liturgies, historic Reformed theology on sacraments, and it's really cool to see.
It's an arduous journey. I'll tell you that much, because so much of and Brazil's not the only one, but throughout Latin America, so much of evangelical and Protestant identity is anti-Catholic. And so the problem there is that you have a negative definition,
right?
Yes.
And
you define yourself by what you're not,
right? Exactly. And in fact, but it's a real thing. Like the word Christian for us, this is part of that Reformation legacy. We've got hymns, we've got psalms. Also, we've got the word Christian. You couldn't use the word Christian in the 80s because it meant Roman Catholic. It's Christian civilization. We all know what Christian means. It is Roman Catholic. So then the word became believers.
Okay.
There are the Roman Catholics and the believers. It is an enormous change that within my lifetime, evangelicals now talk about Christianity and Christian culture. The word Christian has been taken back. Yeah. Evangelicals and Protestants can use it. It's such a change, but it's something that's hard for us to wrap our mind around as English speakers. My father, who he's an Anglicarian now, and he wouldn't experience this in the same way. But 20 years ago, he went to he became a Christian as an adult, kind of an Assemblies of God, sort of thing. And he went to England with my mom, and they were at Westminster Cathedral, and my mom went in, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't step in because it just felt so Catholic to him. Like this the height of Protestant expression. And he couldn't do it, even though he considered himself a Protestant. So it's actually an enormous, gracious change that the evangelical and Protestant church in Brazil has experienced in my lifetime.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if it's a Western world thing, in part just because we've not built those kinds of things yet in the Western, like in the North America and South America.
Yeah.
So,
our cathedral here in town has not been built.
Yeah, that's right. It'll happen.
What a good way of putting it. Yeah. Praise God.
So I wanted to think a little bit about Christendom here, because I was just reading an article by Peter Leithart yesterday for July the 4th, America Day. Is it? It's not America Day. Anyway,
I love that you called it that. Independence Day.
Independence Day. That's right. So July the 4th.
America Day. Yay.
So Peter Leithart did an article on that, just kind of reflecting on America as a Christian nation. And he basically described America, the U.S., as one of the few post-Christendom Christian nations. It's interesting is I think what I see in Canada right now is that they're trying to pin conservative Orthodox biblical views as an Americanized Christianity.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, we're figured to be on MAGA payroll.
Right.
If we say anything that sounds like.
This is amazing. Like one of the reasons I feel a affinity for you guys is that like so much of the Canadian experience actually, so I am American as well as Brazilian, but so much of the Canadian experience actually resonates with the Brazilian side.
Yeah.
Because that's usually it's the socialist stuff, but this is the exact same playbook that's being run on evangelicals in Brazil, and it's actually a bit
And
of
China too.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's actually a pretty smart play.
Oh, it is. It's brilliant. Yeah. So, but the way to fight back against that is Christendom.
Yeah, yes.
Because Christendom encompasses Canada, Brazil, the United States. In many ways, my theology as an individual is much more influenced by historic Dutch Christianity than it is by American Christianity.
Right.
This is, so Christendom doesn't have the same kind of weight or connection that it had probably 500 years ago.
Right.
But this is a connection that we are building now. And in the CREC, with this global attraction to the CREC, like we've got churches in the Philippines and Ukraine and Russia and Poland, this is a sort of new expression of Christendom.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's not the same thing as what was before.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
there's progress to history, and like you say, the best is yet to come.
Yeah.
And that we've got to have that as a really firm, solid conviction. But what we're seeing now, what we're seeing start to rise, is a different character of Christendom. It's not. Well, it's not like Holland and Germany and France and their political relations to one another. There's something that's transcending that, and it's interesting to watch and to see and to try and discern what it is that the Lord is doing.
Yes.
But there's all kinds of things that He's doing in all these different places. And He's on the move in all these different places. I think Philip Jenkins back in 2002, when he wrote his book called The Next Christendom.
Still well worth reading.
That was
It's a good book.
That was a prescient title.
Yeah.
The Next Christendom.
Yeah. Well, man, I mean, it's exciting to think about so many things. Like one of the things that I think is really interesting is to consider. So China finally got rid of the last vestiges of its one-child laws.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's incredible, and they've been kind of tapering off for a while and not enforcing all this because they recognize it. In fact, it seems pretty certain that they've been lying about how big their population is. They're a lot more fragile in a lot of ways than they're projecting, obviously. But so they got rid of this, and it's funny to think about how the Chinese people are going to react themselves, because most Chinese are going to continue to live as they are. They've bought into this statist story, just like so many in the West have. They're not going to want kids. They're going to want this statist idea of prosperity, which ultimately collapses and leads to poverty. But that's what they're going to want. Who's going to want to have more kids? Who's going to take this up? It's going to be the Christians, right? It's already an enormous, it's like just numbers wise, it's a huge Christian country. It's becoming more and more Christian with every year, and now they may have the Communist Party may have done the thing that's going to seal their fate and turn China Christian, because only the Christians are really going to want to have kids, and they do.
And they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Canada will be a colony of a Christian nation.
Yes.
God's ways are not our ways.
No, they're not. I remember thinking about that with regards to the threat of the Chinese communist political, where its arms are everywhere.
Yes.
And they've spent the last several decades stealing technology and stealing all kinds of stuff and appropriating it to themselves in order to build this big thing that's going to conquer the world. And meanwhile, the church is just flourishing in China. It's growing.
Yes.
There's hundreds of millions of believers in this atheistic country, and I was imagining a confrontation between a sort of a post-Christian America with a pre-Christian
Yes.
China.
That has certainly crossed my mind as well. Lord willing, that'll not
Yeah.
be the case, and we will repent.
I wonder what that would look like.
Yes.
Who's righteous here?
Yeah. I mean,
Who's the good
we need
guys?
that sort of wake up call. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's something that really grieves me when you consider that sort of context, and the Christians struggling and fighting to be faithful in China. Christians, evangelicals in socialist countries in Latin America and in Africa, and then these really prosperous, well-established evangelicals and Protestants in rich countries who tell them to stop building. What treachery.
Yeah, it's treachery.
It really is.
Absolutely.
It's straight up treachery. That two kingdoms stuff is treachery.
Yes.
It's these Christians need actually your encouragement to build schools, to build institutions that shield the saints. They need your encouragement, and instead you're telling them that none of this matters. Just suffer in more silence.
Yeah.
Treachery.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I think I think grounding what we're doing in Christendom. I really appreciate my relationship with all these American pastors, but it's not because they're American. It's because they have really good ideas,
Right.
and they've got good training. And anyway.
You really want to make sure everyone understands you're not some American puppet, huh?
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, but we should move on to this poetry and fighting communism thing. So we started by talking about poetry. How do you think, Joffrey, do we fight communism, and how is poetry a tool in fighting communism?
Oh, so communism ultimately is the perfect expression of man as God.
Right.
Right. So
Yes.
we just we flatten everything. All of reality just becomes mankind, and there's nothing to worship except us. And of course, us is the state. Right. There's just one of us. So there can be no transcendent. There must be nothing transcendent, and there must be nothing beyond. There's nothing higher than God. We haven't even brought things down. We haven't squashed anything. This is all there is. We can just see in this one dimension. Now, poetry, naturally seeks the transcendent. Anything that says that it's poetry but is debased or dehumanizing, well, it's not poetry. The mere act of writing with structure is going to begin to resist this kind of flattening idea. So poetry looks for the transcendent. Poetry looks for what is beyond. And so as soon as you start doing that, you start to break down the story that all of mankind is just one big communist blob. And of course, true poetry points to the true God and real truth, real beauty, real goodness. So ultimately, poetry is going to point us to the gospel. But at a minimum, even the romantics or the transcendentalists are going to point us to the truth that there is a reality beyond our flat world. Mm-hmm. That's my initial answer.
Yeah, so I think something that Peter's the Christian,
yes,
of the two brothers. Peter Hitchens came to New St. Andrews and spoke with us at a disputatio, and he made the comment that one of the ways that we fight against secularism or all of that within our world is not primarily logical arguments, but it's beauty.
Right.
And it's beautiful things like cathedrals and poetry and good literature and stuff like that. So I think with communism, as communism begins to creep into our land, I think it's easy to just be like, oh, this is depressing. it's all darkness. But beauty becomes kind of like the flash of light in the midst of kind of a dry, desiccated wasteland of ideology.
Well, and I like that you bring up cathedrals, because we need to think three-dimensionally, right? And one of the things that can happen when this is also dreary and depressing. Okay, so let me make some arguments about why this is wrong. And we lose sight of the fact that logical syllogisms, they are sort of flat themselves. Not that they're not true, right? But they purposefully limit the dimensions so that you can navigate them easily.
Right.
Right. So that is actually not the best way to combat flattening and dreariness. You actually have to have pops of color. You have to have a pop-up book. You have to have a cathedral. You need to have multiple dimensions in play. That's how you break it down. Not by entering that flat one-dimensional world and giving arguments
according
within
to
it.
One-dimensional frameworks. Right. We bring a multi-orbed thing into a one-orbed.
Right. Exactly. And the truth is, I mean, it works for us because reality is multi-orbed, right? So a two-dimensional creature wouldn't be able to understand something outside of two dimensions. That's fine, but the communists are lying to themselves, and to everyone else about what human nature is. So we can bring something three-dimensional in, because the truth is they're just bringing the ceiling really low, right? We actually still are three-dimensional. So we can show someone a cathedral or a poem, and they can recognize, this points to heaven.
Yes.
Well, one thing I'm beginning to realize is that when you've got a congregation of people who've been reborn by the Spirit of God, it's actually not all that hard to fight back against communism, because the congregation is pulling in so many different directions. You've got one member over here ministering to this elderly lady. You've got another member over here hosting big parties. You've got another member over here. Just people doing cool things in so many different sectors, serving people, building cool things. And when you unite all these people in Christ and unite all these people into the church, and you give them freedom to be diverse within the boundaries of God's law, right away communism is a lot less attractive.
Yes, exactly right. And we do want to have a very purposeful and aggressive agenda, which of course we would, because we preach the gospel, but of spreading that, right? So we're not sheltering in place. We're not building the perfect fortress where communism isn't true in our little within our perimeter. Dudes throw parties and look after the elderly, so no communism here. We want to, and I know your church does this. I see it. But we got to push out into the community, out to the help other churches be that way as well, and that can spread, and it does spread.
Joy should be contagious.
That cathedral thing has been haunting my mind for quite a long while now. In this city, where we don't have the natural tools that it seems to me we need. I mean, we're on a whole lot of soil and not rock.
Right.
We're 2 hours from the mountains.
We're 2 or 3 hours from the Rocky Mountains that are protected against such things. You can't just go and dig out some cubes of rock and say, okay, let's build our cathedral.
But there's endless rock there.
Rock. Yes. So anyways, we're still figuring that kind of thing out.
We're going to have to transform all of Canada for Christ.
It's a really good vision.
That's
a really
awesome.
good vision.
But now you think about Alberta. Alberta joined the Canadian Confederation in 1905. So Alberta is a very young province. It doesn't have much history beyond that. Maybe 1800s, people started trickling into Alberta. Grand Prairie as a city is younger than an old grandpa.
Yeah.
So I think it's only about 60 to 80 years old.
Well, as a city, they were starting to settle here in 1910. People started gathering around this area.
Yeah, so the first homestead was created around 1910.
Yeah, but there were there were farmers in 1905 moved into the area. Val's grandpa and grandma got here in 1911. But they were. It was farm and then farm and then farm and then farm and community. Grand Prairie wasn't the first community around here. I think it was more at Saskatoon Island Lake. That's where the post office was.
Interesting.
In the very early days, but Grand Prairie grew up in the like 1909, 10, 11. People started congregating here.
That's really young.
Yeah.
It is really young. And Canada as a nation is only 159 years old.
Right.
So it's a young nation, and we should instill people with great vision.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if y'all in Grand Prairie had a cathedral before Moscow, Idaho does, it would be so funny. Do it, guys. Do it.
Aren't they already working on a cathedral?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not as far as I know, but they've been talking about it.
Well, there's deep vision in that place. There's
there
deep,
is.
long forward-looking vision.
A lot of things have been done, but
And there's 50 years of building there.
yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Still, it would be pretty awesome if you guys managed to pull that off.
Yeah, so there's, we have never had our own building, our congregation. We started 20 years ago, but we've never had our own worship space even. And so we've got, we have to meet the here and now
Right, of course.
problem, right?
Yeah.
Because we've got to have a place to meet. So, right now we rent from another congregation who graciously lets us occupy their building. But that sort of a need is the immediate apparent one, but the cathedral one is the back of the mind. That's where we're going.
Yes.
in
Well,
this
and
town.
you need to be thinking and talking about it now, because perhaps in God's providence it will happen for another 150 years.
Yeah.
But perhaps in God's providence it will happen 20 years from now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you have to be thinking and planning and be ready for it now.
Yes.
You have to be ready for the guy who is going to fly in from Nova Scotia or southern Mexico with the resources and the passion to do this just by himself. Are you ready for that? That could happen, right? Like, yes, we have the plans. We'd like to go. The land is here, and here's where we'd go to. We'd change all the legislation and get the rock in the Rockies, and, whatever it is. Like, the more you're thinking about it now, you want to be prepared for whatever the Lord's going to do. And you're not just theorizing. You're planning on building this thing. It may take 150 years.
Yeah.
And
maybe something else will happen.
Maybe we can get a 600-year mortgage from Service Credit Union.
For example.
Yeah.
In order to build a cathedral.
I remember in support of this notion of this is something we're thinking about that and planning towards and thinking towards. I remember when I first ran across Reformed theology, I was 22 years old, and it was such a fantastic breath of fresh air. I remember that. I remember especially the change wrought in me by this switching of eschatology from the end is upon us to no, there's a future.
Right.
And it was a huge thing. And there were, I think, 3 of us in this town that were going through the same thing at the same time. But we looked around and we said, is there any churches around here that teach any of this kind of stuff? And we said, no, there's none of them. And we looked around to find out places that were, and there were a couple of guys in Edmonton thinking this way, and there were a group of guys down in Langley that were thinking this way, and but they were scattered here and there. And we were young, and we had our lives ahead of us. So we prayed that the Lord would raise up churches, raise up a church in Grand Prairie that lives and breathes these ideas, and then you got your life to live. A couple of our guys, they went off to seminary and went off elsewhere, and we started raising a family and
Yeah.
all this stuff. And it was a back of our minds. But 2006, all of a sudden it was right. It was the right time. And Christ Covenant Church was planted, and it lives and breathes those ideas.
Yeah.
You know, but it was 17 years from that time when we said, boy, this really needs to happen.
Right.
And it wasn't 17 years of continual slogging with eyes focused on that goal.
Right.
We had the idea, and God liked that idea,
Yeah.
right? And he blessed it, and it came up 17 years later. There are things like that have happened
Yeah.
over time where we're not applying our direct effort to it,
Right.
but it's a really good idea in our heads and a really good vision to be looking towards. Who knows what God will do?
And as you get older, you realize that these 17-year gaps and these 20-year gaps. I mean, when I was young, it seemed like the 1970s were impossibly long ago.
Yeah.
2006 is not that long ago.
No,
it was just
it's not.
yesterday.
Yeah, it was.
So actually, an amazing amount of work has gotten done, and still can't see the cathedral, but an amazing amount of work has been done.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
All right.
All right. I think
Yeah, this
kinda
this has
wrapping
been
up
a good
here?
conversation. Joffrey, we're really glad that you joined us here today
Yeah, thank you.
in the studio. It's a delight to talk about these things and to use our imaginations to the glory of God. Right?
Amen.
God gave us this capacity to say, "What if?" You know,
Right.
and we can pursue those sorts of things, and it's good. It's good for us, and it's good for the kingdom of God in the long run as we are submitted to Him.
we should imagine a better world
Yeah,
for us and our children,
yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
grandchildren.
yeah, indeed. Okay, we are the Chinook Podcast. It's a delight for us to be able to bring this conversation to you, and we commend that you seek the Lord, that you dig into His Word, that you become part of His church, get rooted, stick your feet in there and your hands and get busy. There's lots and lots of good work to do for the sake of the glory of God, so get to it. Blessings to you all.
Have a good day.
So long, everyone.